When I was about 5 years old, we got our first and only pet that I had as a child. And that pet was a little blue parakeet that we named Perkins. And I still remember going to get Perkins because the woman that we got him from actually bred birds. And she let my sister and I go back into where she bred the birds, and we saw these little tiny eggs, parakeet eggs, and then some new hatchlings that were so newly hatched they didn't have feathers, and they were very, very tiny little birds. And I think that's probably why I still love birds today. But Perkins was a wonderful pet. And so we got a great big cage for him, and we put him next to the dining room table where we ate dinner. And every night my father would come home from work and he would ask my mother, "Did Perkins say anything today?" And my mother would say, "No, he didn't say anything." And my dad would stand in front of the cage and he'd look down at Perkins and he'd say, "Perkins is a stupid bird." Poor Perkins, right? But this went on day after day, every single day. My dad would come home. Did Perkins say anything? My mom would say no. He'd look at Perkins and say, "Perkins is a stupid bird." Well, one night when we were all at dinner, from the side of the room where Perkins' cage was, we heard, "Perkins is a stupid bird." And we just all jumped out of our seats in astonishment and excitement that Perkins had actually said, "Perkins is a stupid bird." Fortunately for Perkins, he didn't know what he was saying. He was a mimic, and he did a very good job. And Perkins was not a stupid bird. He went on to gain about a 200-word vocabulary, and he was just such a great pet. I mean, he would let my sister and I take him out of the cage and drive him around in my pickup truck, and I loved that bird. Well, as I said, fortunately for Perkins, he didn't know that he was being told that he was a stupid bird. He learned the statement through repetition. And that's what happens with our thoughts. We learn them through repetition. A thought that we keep thinking forms neural pathways in our brain, and it becomes our default thought. And it's interesting that scientists say that we have about 60,000 thoughts a day, the average person. And of those 60,000 thoughts, 95% of those thoughts are habitual. They're the same thoughts we thought yesterday and the day before and the day before. That wouldn't be too bad, except that of those 95 habitual thoughts, about 80% are negative. So the average person has about 45,000 negative thoughts a day. It's pretty hard to be happy when you are having 45,000 negative thoughts a day. So the first thing you need to be aware of is your thoughts. You need to notice what you're thinking, because those habitual thoughts are thoughts that can go through our minds without us even really realizing them, being aware of them. And when you notice yourself having a negative thought, congratulate yourself because you've noticed it. Now you're empowered to do something about it. And so what you want to do is gently replace that thought with another thought that's as true or truer than the thought you just had. Now, a great way to do this is a process developed by Byron Katie called The Work. And it's a series of 4 questions and then a turnaround. So the first question you ask yourself is it true? Is this thought true? Just because we have a thought doesn't make it true. So you can answer either yes or no to that question. You might think, well, yeah, it seems true to me. Or you might realize, no, it really isn't. The next question you want to ask yourself is, can I 100% know that this thought is true? And when you give that one some thought, you realize that maybe you can't 100% know that it's absolutely true. And then the next question you want to ask yourself is, how do I react, or who do I become when I have that thought? In other words, how do you feel about yourself? It's our feelings about our thoughts that often lead to our unhappiness. How do you treat yourself, and how do you treat others when you have that thought? So explore that question a little bit, and then ask yourself, who would I be if I didn't have that thought? And it's at this point where I very often hear clients, as I take them through this process, go, oh, because it feels so relieving to think about not having that thought. And then you want to do a little turnaround. Whatever your first thought was, you want to turn it around and try different versions of it and see, can you come up with something that is as true or truer than the original thought, but is a positive, supportive thought, something that supports your happiness. And then practice that thought. As you practice that new thought, the neurons that were grouped together in a pathway for the old thought become smaller, and the neural pathways for the new thought become larger. And so eventually that new thought is going to be your default thought. That's my happiness tip for today. I'm Estrella Rowell, America's Life Purpose Coach, and if you'd like to find out more about me, about happiness coaching, about life purpose coaching, or you'd like to pick up my free gifts that I offer, you can go to my website at americaslifepurposecoach.com. Thanks.